Good morning, and thank you for joining us again for Prioritize the Arts Live. I am LaShondra Vernon, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Artists Working in Education. Today, we will be featuring videos and testimonies from our Rising Artists Council. Our theme for today is Equip and Cultivate the Creative Community, which is a very important feature of the work that we do at AWE. And so instead of talking to you guys and explaining this to you, I'm going to let some of our creative art and programming speak for itself. All right, and I am back because we're going to do a real quick fix with the audio. And so while we're waiting on the audio to get set up, just want to share how important this programming is to us. Rising Artists Council is our youth programming. And really looking forward to digging in. I think we're all set in the back room and we are ready to share our intro video. Enjoy. That video belonged to one of our team members, a wonderful animation done by Audrey, and I'm going to bring her in to join the conversation. Hello, Audrey. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you, LaShondra?
I am wonderful.
Good.
So, first of all, that video is amazing. Can you share a little bit about how you created that animation and what people can look forward to experience that kind of programming for AWE?
Yeah, for sure. So for the past couple of years, I've been working with actually our Arts by Tech program, and one of the things we wanted to highlight was animation of all forms. And the one that I've never really dived too much into was stop motion animation, and I decided to give that a shot for this video. But I also wanted to include a project that I'll be hosting next week with Milwaukee Public Library, where I'll be showing people how to make collaged puppets of some sorts. I kind of call it like a exquisite corpse puppet, I guess. I literally use just magazine cutouts and like those brass fasteners that you use for paper. So it's like a really simple project to make, and I'll show you how to get wild with it next month.
Wow, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Mhm.
So, Audrey, you are responsible for one of our premier emerging programs, and that is the Rising Artists Council.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about your program and how it works?
Yeah, of course. So, Rising Artists Council is composed of middle school and high school artists who are looking to do more professional development with a creative career, but also collaborate creatively with a cohort of people their same age. Traditionally, before we were all virtual, we were going to gallery visits, we're doing artist talks, we're creating together in our studio back at the office, just so that we can bounce ideas off each other and create in just this like full on like energy that everybody was just like radiating just from making art. And then this is actually a paid opportunity. So we once you fulfill all the requirements and all the projects with Rising Artists Council, you have the opportunity to earn a stipend at the end of it. So a really great opportunity to not only earn some money, but also to kind of also do like practice time management and practice professional skill building as well, and work towards a goal as well, and not just, oh, I'm just going to make art just because. Like, you're like, oh, I actually do deserve to get paid for my creativity, for my artistic skills. So yeah, it's been going on for a little over 2 years now. We're completely virtual via Google Meet now these days, and we meet about once a week.
Awesome. So our theme is equip and cultivate the creative community. Say a little bit more about how this program is specifically helping to equip the creative community, starting with our young adults.
Yeah, of course. So with Rising Artists Council, we provide opportunities for people like in middle school and high school to learn more about honing their creative skills, but also learn from other creative professionals as well. So they can learn lessons from people who've been doing this for a while, but then also learn about what makes their practice so special then. So they kind of learn early on how to market themselves, and also how to use their voice in a creative way, and get into the creative community that I think is really, really unique in Milwaukee, because there's just so many different ways people are collaborating these days. And people use this term small Milwaukee, but I think it's because it feels so small because everybody is just constantly interacting with each other, and it just feels like a really close group of people just doing meaningful creative collaboration.
Absolutely. So we really love this program. This is a cornerstone program, and it's quite new in comparison to some of our other programs. To be working more intentionally with teams, but it's such an important group to make sure that we prioritize. And we're all about prioritizing what is important at AWE. So, speaking of prioritization, who can explain the impact of the Rising Artists Council program better than the participants, right?
Mhm.
And so, what I'm going to bring in next is a little bit of testimony from some of our amazing Rising Artists Council members.
Rising Arts Council has really pushed me to be more creative and be more outgoing and try new things. I feel like I was a lot more reserved and didn't go out of the box before I joined.
Art was something that I could do when I was bored, and it gave me a talent. It has helped me with working with different mediums and getting better at drawing specific things.
Needed some way to keep improving my art and building my portfolio whenever I did decide to start applying. maybe even potentially make connections, and mainly just to keep working collaboratively with others so I can really get a feel for how I operate within a team dynamic.
So for skill building, you basically pick a skill that you haven't really done before and you want to try out. Like say that I wanted to do ink, like try with ink. So I would do each day, I would do a new art piece with ink. And it could be just totally creative and like whatever comes to mind. It doesn't have to be that serious, but as long as you're trying it out and exploring new ways.
My favorite project was the mood board because you got to visualize an emotion.
And a typical day ran over a Google Meet, an overall relaxing experience shared with visionaries of timid temperaments, serving to create a nurturing environment for us to grow together in our own various projects, which we'd share our own concepts for and refine as a collective to be the best possible version of what that vision was.
I really want to do more things outside with people and just collaborate more face to face rather than through a screen, just because there's difficulties from each person, like you can't hear them that well, or I feel like being face to face makes it more comfortable and you can just see the actual person and like get to know them more with their personality and through their artwork and what they do.
Important so then you can get like ideas from the other person that you're working with, and so that the project that you are working with can be like twice as creative.
I think it's important to collaborate because you get to see other people's ideas rather than just your own, so it's like added on and it just makes you think more outside the box. And also working with people is really cool because you're not only excited for your art, you're excited for theirs, and when you collaborate together it's like a big passion project.
The minds of others enlighten and broaden your view, opening up new possibilities. You know, on your own, your scope is very limited, but when you open your heart to the ideas and the lives of others, you really start to see things in a much different way, in a way that shapes you creatively and just as a person. And I definitely feel that is why collaboration is important, and it's why it's important to me, and it's something I value dearly, and I believe that AWE really did that for me.
I just love that video. That video is amazing. So those are some of our Rising Artists Council members. Before we keep the conversation going, I'm going to add in John, our program director for Artists in Residence programming. Hi, John.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So let's take a moment to kind of talk about the experience of the Rising Artists Council members and what college possibilities are looking like for some of our participants.
Yeah, definitely. We actually have quite a few members this time around who are not only applying to college, but are getting accepted to different colleges for different art programs. Recently, we had about 3 members who were accepted to MyAd this past month, which was super exciting, and them receiving merit scholarships that they're totally deserving of. And we actually do have a past member who isn't in MyAd currently. Her name is Linnea, and a truly talented voice, and so happy to see her that she's pursuing that creative career that she wants, and that Rising Artists Council can be a part of that journey for her as well. And even though we do work with a lot of high school students, a lot of them start off as middle schoolers as well. Some of them started off as beginning of 7th grade, and now they're freshmen in high school, and so they're seeing that change within themselves ever since they were younger, and they're like, oh wow, they're really shocked with how wonderful they're doing. I don't think they should. I think they should always be like, oh wow, I've always been this great. And I mean, look at all the fruits I've the term basically. I'm doing wonderful. That's what I want them to believe in themselves.
Yes. And I think that the self-esteem help has been really great for our teens. That's a really important thing to add to the equation. John, do you want to answer the question as well? Share some more?
Sure. I think one of the really neat aspects of the Rising Artists Council is their personal portfolio development and just the development of their personal artistic voice and aesthetic. So they do a lot of activities with the skill building and with their creative collaborators to really hone in and develop that portfolio. And with that comes great opportunities for scholarships and things like that. Which are pretty important when going to college this year with just the financial burden of schooling. And one of my favorite experiences with the Rising Artists Council is when I get asked to write letters of recommendation. That just means so much to me. It really shows kind of the trust that they have in me and sort of giving them a leg up and giving them a hand just means so much to me as an artist because that was really important for me as a young person. So that's been really cool. I think I've written more letters this year than I ever have in my life. So the Rising Artists Council is rocking it out in the world, and they are making their mark and ready to leave more creative marks everywhere.
That's amazing. I think when this program was just a pilot, we always had these aspirations to see a way that we could support them into really choosing an art career. And, that is not something that's always cultivated at home. And being able to be there, almost like the creative guidance counselors for the young people in the Rising Artists Council has really created an opportunity for them to explore ways that they can hone their skills and become creative professionals. So really exciting work that you guys have been leading. And I'm so excited for the futures of our young people in the Rising Artists Council. So that was our last video for the day. But before we go, we're going to do this quick conversation with the rest of the team. So one at a time, I'm going to bring them in. You know her, you love her, Rihanna. And then our other fave, the team of faves, Drea. So how's everyone doing?
Pretty good.
We spent a lot of time in these boxes together. And so, for the rest of the world, I think we've all been doing this. But I think we've made a lot of fun of our little boxes, and I'm proud of that. So I just have a couple of questions before we jump off. And before we ask everyone to donate, because that's the whole focus here, is to get people to contribute to these programs. But two really great questions that I want to ask each of you specific to the importance of the Rising Artists Council. And one is, what is the creative skill that you had and were able to identify as a teenager that allowed you to be more successful as a professional? And anyone can start.
I think I'll start because I just have like a weird kind of roundabout way how it happened. I'm granted, I've always grown up in a very creative environment. My mother would always provide art supplies for me whenever I was home alone from school or just doing or had free time. So I always had that in me. But then I think what really kind of flipped a weird switch for me was during a science fair, actually, where we had to do like these like the traditional trifold, like what was your experiment, what was your hypothesis, and what was your conclusion kind of thing. And for mine, I don't even remember what my experiment was, but I remember just having fun doing like the little cutouts like I did with like the animation, doing cutouts and like laying everything out, make sure all the colors made sense. And then when the fair came around, I came up to my my experiment and then I got a prize, and it wasn't for like best experiment or best written. It was like most of it was like best looking project. And like, it wasn't even like most scientifically correct. It was like, it looked good. It didn't make sense, but it looked really good. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that.
Aesthetics definitely matter.
Mhm.
Who wants to go next?
I have like a pretty strong feeling about the importance of art and art education. I was always into math more, and like as a kid, I carried around a calculator. But you know, I eventually went through a series of events that just found myself doing more and more art and being supported in that way through high school. And so I was like, I'm going to art school. And I don't regret that for a single minute, because there's just when you're trained to be creative, and when you're supported in being creative and thinking outside the box, and thinking and understanding how you want to communicate things, and maybe even in a non-traditional sense, is just applicable in every realm of life, really. And so I'm a huge champion of creative thinking, design thinking, artistic thinking should be across the board in all subjects. It just makes you a much more well-rounded person.
For sure. Totally agree. Who's next?
I'll
John.
share. Oh, you want John to go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, I think for me, I had really similar, like early art education experiences. So, in my elementary school, like the teacher came around on occasion with the cart and you did art. And then once I got to middle school, I had an art teacher who was really big at trying to teach like big idea approaches and connecting them to artists and like art periods. And I think for the most part, it kind of went over my head. Art wasn't necessarily always fostered cross-curricular within my middle school. There were like opportunities and projects and stuff like that, but it wasn't necessarily fostered outside of the art room, other than maybe in other specials like home ec or industrial technology, which were a part of my middle school experience. So, I think for me, though, there was a bit of a turn once I was in 8th grade. So you had to be like invited to what was like a college for kids experience. And so I went and I got to participate in like a 3-dimensional art experience, which I'd never done before. And so I created this like 3-dimensional turtle. It was like a sculpture. I was super proud of it. And I ended up having the art teacher who was the high school 3D art teacher at the time who was teaching it. And he was just this person who had, this tremendous respect for the potential that he would see in all of the kids that were in his class. And I think, for him, he also had some learning struggles of his own that made him just really appreciate what arts could bring to people and how they could make people feel really confident. And so I think he wanted to really share that with like the kids and the students that were in his room. And so I just remember having such a good feeling about like, hey, like this person sees the potential in me to be an artist. And prior to that, it was like, oh, you're good at drawing or, whatever, but there was never this idea that like it mattered. And so I think that's what's, pretty unique about the Rising Artists Council and the way that we do it is I feel like it's a really early on experience in the way that kids are participating in art, because we do start in the middle school space. And then we just get to continue to develop that for them. And like Rihanna, I'm a really big advocate of seeing art as, multidisciplinary. It's definitely can go across all curriculums. And I think it just gives kids who are creative this outlet to understand, a broader lens with which they can be what they want to do when, they grow up. And so I think that's pretty special. And I think it's like a great little tidbit for parents as well, that, your kid might also really be into math like Rihanna, right? But there's also this connection between creativity and math, or creativity discipline out there. So I have a daughter who has done the Rising Artists Council, and that's what I always think about for her is she's a creative and she's really into art, but I also think about all the other skills that thinking creatively is giving her regardless of what she ends up doing. And I think that's what's pretty special about the Rising Artists Council and the way that Audrey approaches it.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I can sort of jump in with my story, but just to piggyback off of what Drea was saying, one of my kind of memories from a high school art teacher was, don't lock yourself into being a painter or being a photographer. There's so many creative fields and creative endeavors. And one little nugget that stuck with me is he used to say, look at every object in the room that's surrounding you. Every single one of those objects was designed by an industrial designer or a product designer. Every one of those objects came in a package that was designed by a graphic designer or a packaging designer. So art is really like literally everywhere around us all the time. And creativity just fuels that. And so on the flip side of that, creatively, I'm a painter, and luckily, I kind of decided that at a really young age, and was really supported by my family, which I'm so thankful for. So I did painting lessons at a lady's house in my neighborhood. Her name was Mrs. Wood, and I would walk over to her house, and we'd go in her basement, and she would teach all the neighborhood kids how to paint every Thursday afternoon. Um, she had a little bird named Mr. Bob that would like come sit on our easels while we were painting, and it was the best ever. Um, and then when I got to high school, I had a really supportive art department at my high school, which unfortunately doesn't happen all the time these days with sort of the budget cuts and just art being cut from a lot of schools. And I was able to take a couple art classes a day, and I had really awesome materials and resources and teachers there for me. And at my high school, I met, we had a student teacher, and she was coming from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and her name was Erin Garrity. And at that point in my life, I didn't really think art school was like an option or a real like thing that normal people did. And she sort of instilled in me that like, yes, art school is an option, and you should go and you should get a scholarship. So she really helped me develop my portfolio and fight kind of for a scholarship to make that opportunity happen. And I think that is where a lot of my passion comes from, with just helping young artists and rising artists sort of find their voice and, sort of instill in them like, look, art is a viable career. You can make an amazing life for yourself. You can live creatively and fulfilled and make your community and world a better place through your passion. And that's what it's all about, really. So I think art is my identity, art is my person, and I'm very blessed to just know that and have that as part of me.
For sure, for sure. And then I'll just share my story. I am not a visual artist, I am a performing artist. And the greatest creative impact on me was two categories. So I played the flute very competitively in a band and orchestra, and my band and orchestra instructor / director was Mr. Durr, and Mr. Durr was the hardest pushing teacher that I had. And I went to a college bound school, so it was all IB classes, a lot of like rigor. But there was this first row of seats for flute players, and there were only 4, maybe 3 seats that allowed for a piccolo, and those were the 3 individuals that were called first chair. You could battle for first chair from the back row, because there were 2 flute sections, the front row, and then there was one in the back with behind the oboes and clarinets, right? So there was this competitive edge around being able to get to that piccolo. And I promise you, there was nothing more important to me once I realized that I had to compete to get it, to get the piccolo, just simply because I am naturally very competitive. And that came out in this creative format. And the other category is forensics and debate. I was the captain of forensics and debate team. Again, very competitive. But a creative at heart, wanted to find unique ways to have healthier competitions to prevent them from becoming life conflicts. And so my creative side has been supported by that, by having people who saw some talents in me around performance and pushing it. And I like to be pushed. I appreciate being challenged. But all these things happen for me in art. They came from creative spaces. And then one last question along the lines of the holidays coming up. Everybody's supposed to be going home and not doing any work for a couple of days and thinking about their families, their lives, their communities, and what they're thankful for. So the question for all of you is, what are each of you thankful for here at AWE?
I'm personally grateful for, I guess, the people I get to meet through our programs. I know it's been difficult this past year, considering we've had to move virtual, so ensure everyone's safety. But it still doesn't. It doesn't. What's I'm looking for? Hasn't hindered the connections being made with people that we have. I so thoroughly enjoyed the programs that we've had this past year, even virtual, and just the insight and experiences of other people I've had the pleasure of learning and knowing about. That is something I'm truly grateful for, and receiving these new perspectives. It just makes me more motivated and energized to still put in that effort, even when after it's okay to be around other people and to engage with people one-on-one personally. And I'm really looking forward to having that feel within me within the next upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
As I was listening to each of you tell your stories, they all revolved around having some sort of teacher impact you greatly and help you reimagine what you could be or what the possibilities are for you. And I'm just struck with that's exactly what we do, and like that's our mission at AWE, and that's why we're so important, I think, to the community, because we are sending 50 plus artists a year out into the community to be those voices, to be that hand on their shoulder, figuratively, especially right now, but to be that encouragement to say, hey, have you considered this? Or hey, you might be able to apply for a scholarship, or try 3D art. I know you've always drawn it, but no one's ever given you clay to use. And we are doing that every single day as much as possible throughout the entire city. So that's the thing I'm thankful for, is that, here, administratively, we're training and, orchestrating everything so that we can get people out into the communities. So I just feel like very thankful that we are just replicating that en masse as much as possible, those really important and special voices that can change a child's or young person or a young adult's life.
So I'm really thankful for the people, and what I mean by that is, I'm really thankful, like Audrey, for getting to see like how our programming impacts people. I mean, in our current reality, it's it's not the same as normal, obviously, but just getting to talk to people at our programming and really hear like why it's special to them, or how maybe when they brought their kids, their children were impacted, and being able to see the relationships that we are able to build when our artists are out and about. So getting to witness the way art supplies on a table and some pieces of paper bring together a child and a parent, and they're having this whole new conversation. And it really is because they're sitting there and they're creating together in this way that might seem very small and insignificant, but when you're watching that unfold from the sidelines, it's pretty special and it's pretty amazing. And so I always feel incredibly thankful for that. And I just think I'm really honored to be able to get to see those kinds of connections happen, and getting to hear people's stories and interacting with them. As the outreach manager, I'm going to a lot of community events, and you just get to hear why people think art is so significant, even if they're not artists, even if they don't see themselves as creative. And so it's always kind of precious to be able to share with them why they could be a creative, or why maybe their children could be a creative. And then, by people, I also mean the team, right? So all of your faces that I get to work with. And I feel like all of us have this intense passion for what we do, and we all really believe in it. And I think that's pretty amazing to get to work in a space where everyone believes in what you believe in. And that doesn't mean that we all come with the same lens or the same approach. And I think that makes it even more special, because I think we all bring something unique to the table. And I think that just strengthens us being able to do our mission and do it well. And most importantly, to do it with integrity.
Totally agree. And I'm grateful for the same types of things you guys are all grateful for. I'm grateful for this team. We have been through a storm, and I think it has boosted us prioritizing working with each other in a caring and kind way. And it has also taught us so much about each other's strengths. And I've learned so much about each of you working with you through whatever just happened in 2020. I'm also very grateful for the philanthropic community continuing to support us when the season prioritized urgent needs like housing, food, and economic reliefs. We were not deprioritized, and they continued to support us. Some gave us some flexibility around reporting to pivot our programming and change it to something that was safe. And so we are really fortunate that the giving community did not freeze throughout this season and really figured out new ways to work with us. And then, of course, I'm grateful for this amazing outpouring from the public. For us to be 60% of our goal already is absolutely amazing. And that would not be possible without all these really amazing friends that AWE has all over the community. And beyond. A couple of these donors are not even in Wisconsin. And so it's just really great to see this support. I think at a time like this, when we've all turned to art, it's great to see that people continued to financially support it and to just support it in general. Hiring us has also been a really great thing that the community has done, figuring out ways to keep the creative economy flowing. And so we all just have lots of gratefulness as a team. But I really want to thank those that have been checked into this weekly live fundraiser in a virtual format, which is not ideal for what we do best. Please stay tuned. We will keep doing this for a couple more weeks, but we are so very close to our goal. We're still going to hang out with you at least once a week to the end. We're so close to our goal, and we are really appreciative of how people have responded to such a unique way to ask for support. So we are going to sign off with that in mind. The link is in the post. Please go ahead, click the link. $5, $2, shake out some change, or make the big bucks donation and just end it here. Like, you can close this gap with one check. It's possible. But we're grateful for those of you that have contributed and continue to support AWE. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye, everyone.